Okay, we're back. Somewhat fortunately, somewhat unfortunately, I recorded like an hour of footage that has gone to the abyss. Um, I don't know where it ended up, but I have a little script to launch the recording, and there was a bad substitution for the file names because I just made an edit to it and it disappeared. Luckily, though, it was basically an hour of complete garbage. Um, Spent a lot of time poking around the OpenBSD sndio code to not really get anywhere, but I did solve the problem. So the problem is, or was, if you recall, we weren't getting this error message when passing in a codec that really should have triggered it because we explicitly didn't list it up here, right? Where would it be? This one? Right, we commented this out and just replaced it with some nonsense. Something like that. And so what should have happened, and did, is that you end up in this case here. Which should have triggered this. But didn't. So the reason for that is that there's actually two codec fields. One is this audio codec ID, which is directly in the context parameter, and the other is this codec ID, which is in the private data. This codec ID is, I'm guessing, used later on actually for the decoding. So the decoder will look inside the private data and decode based off the value of the codec ID, which is set here. But that's not passed in from the command line. The one that's passed in through the command line is this audio codec ID. And so we're actually doing this comparison against the wrong value. Now it's a pretty simple fix. You just get that value, check for it, and do your setting parameters based off that value. And then later on, just make sure you set the encoder to use it. So if we test that out, test. Yeah, and that sounds normal. That sounds great. Or normal, at any rate. You'll have to take my word for it. I don't capture desktop audio. Maybe I'll start doing that at some point, but I'm not doing it now. The one question I had, and the reason why I spent so long poking around in the OpenBSD code, is that the value you need for bytes per sample is 3. I could have sworn that the default for sndio, if you have 24 bits, is 4. And indeed, I poked around in the sndio codebase, and everywhere I could find, it is actually 4. 4 is the correct value used here by sndio. I'm not sure why 3 is required to make it work. If you can see here, you can clearly see that FFmpeg is picking up on the fact that it's 4 bytes, but it's 24 bits of actual data, right? But for some reason, if you use 4 bytes per sample, it doesn't work. I have no idea why that is, so I spent some time trying to look into it, didn't really find a solid solution. And then I got ready to commit. And in fact, actually made a commit. So our changes pretty modest. Get rid of this hard coding. Actually check for it. Get rid of this hard coded check. Get rid of this hard coding. Set it to the one we checked. That's it. That's what we did. And then I ran the fate test suite that FFmpeg has. And that went fine. Although you can see OpenBSD's linker complaining. But that went fine. No problems there. So then I went to actually commit, and here's the list of things you need to do. Somewhere, submitting patches. Here we go, patch submission checklist. Did you sign off on your patch? I didn't, so I was like, okay, sign your work, let me click this, find out what I need to do. But unfortunately, you add a line saying this. Okay, I can do that. Using a known identity. Sorry, no anonymous contributions. Well, I'm not going to do that, so we are just going to leave it at that. That's going to be the end of this little series. The result is this patch, which no one is ever going to use. Except me. I'll use it.